Hello, sup guys. So in this video we shall look into user defined functions in Python. Let's define once again what are user defined functions. As the name suggests, they are functions that are defined by the user for their own purposes. Alright, so these user defined functions has actually two parts. Okay, one is called as function definition and the other is called as function calling. Alright, so let us first create a very tiny function and see how does that work. So I'll create a function called hello, and what this does is this prints hello world. Alright, so this is the function definition. Okay, we define functions in Python using this def keyword followed by the function name, and these parentheses are mandatory. And just like we have learned while learning about the conditional statements, we don't have any kind of brackets, which is why we put a colon over here and indent our code. All right, yes, but just having a function doesn't do anything for us. Let us check that. Okay, so what I'll do is python space user defined functions dot py, and this returns nothing because you have just defined a function. A function definition is used to what do you call store this part of code in the memory. But unless and until your function is called, okay, your function is called, to call a function you have to use the function name. So unless and until your function is called, this code doesn't get executed. All right, so now let us call this function. Now what it has to do, it has to print us, it has to execute this statement for us, which is saying nothing but to print hello world. All right, let's run and check that. Great, we got it here. Yes, so now yeah, let us look into the next part. So the control flow. So what is happening here is, as soon as the Python interpreter is coming across this code, what it does is it is defining this function and storing it in the memory. All right, and now when it comes to this line, okay, it checks for anything available with this name. Since the parentheses are available, parentheses are there, it checks for if this function is available in the memory. Since the function is available already defined, what it does is the control of the program will be moved from here to the function call. All right, and then it comes to this line, executes this, and the control stays there. All right, but in most real-time situations, what we require is we want the control to come back to this line again, where from, like, to the line from where the function has been called. Understand? In most real-time programs, we want the control to come back to the line where the function was called initially. All right, so to do that, to be able to do that, we have something called as return keyword. All right, what this keyword does is this keyword transfers the control flow of the execution of the program back to the line from where this function is called for. All right, that's it. Okay, let's run and check this. It's the same output that we are getting, right? Then what is the advantage, or how could it be different by using the return keyword? Or how do we know that the control flow is coming back to this line? Okay, for that reason, what we will do here is we will simply take this string and return that string. Okay, we are returning that string. Now what I will say is string variable is equal to hello. Now what this does is when Python interpreter starts executing this line, we have learned that any uh, statement gets executed from the right to left fashion, right? So the right hand side of this statement is the function call. Okay, so what is happening? The control is going to this function, it is, and it comes across the return keyword and a value with it. So what the control flow or the Python does is it will return this string value back to this position, which means this gets replaced by hello world, and that is assigned to this variable. Now all we have to do is print. So when the key, like when the execution control flow is returned to this line, where it will go next to the next line, right? So that is the advantage of having a return keyword. You can come back to the main function from where you have actually called for this function. All right. Got it? Yes. So this is how a function execution actually works, the control flow of it. Now let us get into the types of arguments. Okay, so this is a pretty simple function, but many a times we want to pass some values from our program to a function. For example, I want to send name. Okay, because I don't want hello world, but I want hello Gautam here. All right. Okay. So what I will do is change the definition of the function a bit, that will allow us to pass any value to this function, and that value will be returned along with hello. All right. So what I'll give here is for your understanding. I'll write this there plus alright. Now I will call for the function. Alright. So now let us understand the execution of this program or the control flow of it. Alright. So as usual, as soon as the Python interpreter comes across this particular definition, this is stored in the memory. Next, a value Gautam is stored in the value heap, and a variable name is created, and that is made to point Gautam. Alright, now I am creating another variable called string variable, and I am calling the function and passing this variable as the parameter. Okay, these are called as parameters or arguments. All right, so I'll pass this variable as a parameter, and now the value that is stored in name is sent to this function, which means to the same name that the name is pointing to the same string the name is pointing to. Now str variable that is there inside the hello function is also pointing to. All right, and now thus that value comes here and string concatenation happens. Okay, and the concatenated string is returned by this return function to here, to this line back again. All right, which means to this str variable, which is different from the str variable that is mentioned in the hello function. Okay, right, this topic actually comes under scopes. You can, for example, now imagine this str variable to be called as hello.strvar by Python internally, and this str variable as is. All right, so now this value, the complete string, is sent back here, to which strvar is pointing to now, and the print statement will print the value that str variable is pointing to. Let's run this function and check. Got it? Yes. Now in Python, argument types are basically two types, the kinds of arguments. Okay, so let us look into what are they now. So one is called as the positional arguments or the mandatory arguments, and the second is called as keyword or default arguments. Now for example, in this function itself, these kind of arguments where I have to pass in a parameter are called as positional arguments. Shall we see what will happen if we do not pass any value to it? Missing one positional argument. Got it? Yes. So now these positional arguments are mandatory. One has to send a value to it. You can either send a variable name or you can send a value itself directly. Got it? Yes. Apart from this positional arguments, we have one more kind of arguments called as keyword or default arguments. Let us say, for example, qualification. By default, I want it to be bachelor's. Okay. And I want even that qualification to be attached. To this, concatenated with this string and sent it back to the line where the function was called for. All right. So now if I call this function with just one argument, also the function works because the second argument has a default value to it. Got it? In case, in case you want to send us the, I mean, a value for the qualification as well, you can do it like this. Got it? Yes. So, in case you want to also mention the keyword of the argument for which you want to send a specific value, then you can do it by qual equal to master set x hello. All right. So let us run it. Check this. Got it? So we also have one more kind of arguments called as variable arguments in Python, about which we shall look into in the next session. All right. So yeah, if you have any doubts until now, you can just post me down in the comment section below, and I'll reply to them as soon as I see them.